Most guys who struggle with dating aren't actually awkward. They're just stuck in a loop that they can't see. Let me show you how one guy's anxiety was creating a system that was quietly ruining his entire life. I'm Jack Henry and I used to really struggle with women. Then I spent years studying attraction the way a mechanic studies a machine. I ended up with a comprehensive understanding of dating psychology, and now I have systems and frameworks that I use to coach guys one-on-one who are struggling with dating and make videos like these. I'm going to start by giving you a rundown of who Ethan is and what his struggles are. Then I'm going to diagnose his exact bottlenecks that are most holding him back. Then I'm going to assign him 3 simple tasks that should level him up. Then I'll show some backup tasks in case the ones I gave him aren't super applicable to your own situation. While this video is about Ethan, you might find a lot of things that are super applicable to your own life. And I hope you get some value out of that because that's why I'm making these videos. So Ethan, he's a smart and introspective guy. But in social situations, he has close to no confidence. He has still managed to make and keep a few friends, but anytime he's in a group, he's way too anxious to speak. He's quiet and he's really bad with eye contact, which makes people think he's uninterested when they're talking to him. People that he's talking to just see him as this cold guy, but he's not trying to be. Another weakness of him is that his Instagram is really bad. The only posts on his grid are video game screenshots and memes, and his profile picture is his cat. And obviously if he's struggling this much socially, he's also struggling with women. Now, from seeing all this, it seems like Ethan is just screwed. But really, it's fixable because he's just in a negative feedback loop. But before I explain that loop, I'm going to diagnose his 3 major bottlenecks. So in my coaching program, I have my clients work through something called the bottleneck ladder. And this is basically 30 bottlenecks that cover everything that could ever cause a guy to struggle with dating. And each of these have 5 levels, where if you're at level 5, that bottleneck is no longer hurting your dating success. And then I have a separate library for tasks for each one of these levels inside each of these 30 bottlenecks. So we're going to use that system to help him out in this video. Ethan's first major bottleneck is going to be his social anxiety. I'd put him at a level 3 here, where he's able to talk to people, but nervously and without eye contact. Getting him up to level 4 means getting him comfortable with talking in a group. His next bottleneck is going to be his baseline warmth. He's warm enough to not repel people, but he's not warm enough to where people want to come up and talk to him. So that puts him at a level 2. To get him up to a level 3, we got to fix this problem with him seeming cold and uninterested. The last important bottleneck for him is going to be digital presence. In his situation, this is mostly about his Instagram, and I'd put him at literally a level 1. Like I said, his Instagram is literally just video games, memes, and cat pictures. And that is destroying any interest that a girl would otherwise have in him. To get him up to a level 2, we got to get his profile to be more neutral, which could literally be better just by removing all the pictures he already has. So these are the 3 major bottlenecks that we're going to solve for Ethan. Now I'm going to illustrate for you the feedback loop that's causing this problem. The loop starts with his social anxiety. His anxiety leads him to have social behaviors that come off as cold. And because of his coldness, people just don't like talking to him. And he can tell this, and that just gives him more social anxiety. And as his social anxiety gets worse over time because of this cycle, it leads him to socialize less and less, giving him less social reps. And because you need social interaction steps to build the skill of becoming socialized, he's going to have low socialization. And low socialization is going to hurt him in multiple ways. One way is that it's keeping him from understanding why he seems cold to people. So it's just going to reinforce the loop of him seeming cold. And another problem with his bad socialization is he doesn't understand how damaging his social presence is. He thinks your Instagram doesn't matter and that you're superficial for thinking it does. But since it does matter for 90% of people his age, it's just going to feed into his negative social response because they're going to think he's weird for having that Instagram. And that farther is just going to feed back into his social anxiety, which is going to feed the whole loop. So I hope you understand this whole cycle now. And it looks crazy, but we're going to get to the bottom of this with some tasks. I'm going to create 3 of them, 1 for each of these bottlenecks. The worst part of his social anxiety is his fear of talking in groups. So that's what I want him to work on. So our goal here is group participation. And he's not talking in groups because of his anxiety. So we need to reduce that. The reason he has this anxiety is because he's analyzing every little thing that happens in a group conversation. Everything being talked about, the body language of everybody, how everybody knows each other, everything about each person. He's struggling because he's so smart. And because all this is stressing him out, we need to reduce his cognitive load. I'm going to do this by making his task be follow a conversation thread for 30 seconds before you even say anything. A conversation thread is just what is the topic of the conversation. And the fact that he's following this and not paying attention to everything else going on is going to reduce his cognitive load, which is then going to stress him out less, which is then going to lead him to be more likely to actually participate in the group. And because he's going to look so engaged, this is going to increase his warmth. So thread following for 30 seconds when he first joins a conversation is going to be his first task. Now, for fixing his warmth more than that first task already did, I think there's going to be a pretty simple fix. So our goal here is obviously increased warmth. And the task I'm going to give him is about eye contact. It's to always hold eye contact when he's speaking, and then if he needs to take a break from it, just keep that break to about 2 seconds and look back. This increases his warmth by increasing social circuit activation in the other person. Basically, by holding more eye contact, it's causing the other person's brain to perceive you as somebody worth socializing with. And the way that you perceive this is thinking that the other person has increased warmth. And because the other person's going to seem happier talking to him, it's going to give him some positive social feedback. And this positive social feedback that comes from the other person seeming like he wants to talk to him, well, it's going to decrease his anxiety. And this is going to make his eye contact even easier because he's less anxious. And that reinforces the loop, but this time it's positive instead of the negative loop from before. And so better eye contact means better social circuit activation, means better warmth, which means more positive social feedback, which means decreased anxiety, which means better eye contact. And eventually it's just going to become natural and easy for him to do. Task 3 is going to be about quickly fixing his Instagram. Now to get this, I want him to do 2 things. One of them is to archive all the posts that aren't of himself or of something in real life. And the other is to make his profile picture be of himself. I'm giving him 2 tiny tasks because I don't think he'd level up his digital presence unless he did both. If you want to know how to take the perfect profile picture, DM me on my Instagram PFP, the link's in the description, and I'll send you a PDF from my program that explains exactly that. Now I want to quickly go over the backup tasks. I give these to my clients in case they aren't feeling one of the main tasks, or if they want to double their progress by doing all 6. To help with his social anxiety, I want him to go into group conversations already having the role that he wants to fit. Like I want him to label himself as the mediator or the comedian, something like that. This will help him naturally figure out how he can add to the group because he only needs to really fit this one role. Now, to increase his warmth, I'm giving him a task that will synergize with the main one. I want him to start breaking eye contact sideways instead of downwards. If he breaks his eye contact downward, it makes him look depressed or like he just really doesn't care what the other person's saying. But if he breaks his eye contact sideways, if he does need to, that's completely normal. And for his digital presence backup task, this shouldn't be a replacement, it should more be an add-on. I want him to follow 50 people he knows after he does these other things to clean up his profile. I know it's superficial, but having really low followers does make it seem like you're not really someone worth knowing. If Ethan does these tasks, it will level him up in all 3 of these bottlenecks. He'll finally be able to participate in groups. He'll make people feel heard when he's talking to them. And he'll stop damaging himself with a bad Instagram. But more important than that, this will give him the momentum to start making more and more changes down the line. He'll feel a sense of hope that he hasn't felt in years. If you want me to make a video breaking you down just like how I did in this video, DM me the word audit on my Instagram. The link is in the top of the description. I really hope you got some value out of this, and I'll see you in the next video.